Have you ever had those char grilled, sweet and spicy wings from someplace like Flanagan's? I'm going to show you how to make them today. So, we're going to start out by washing our chicken. This is very subjective. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your food, but I'm going to tell you what I do with my food. So, I do wash my chicken. I use water and vinegar, and sometimes I use lemon and lime, but it just depends on what I'm cooking. So, I buy Whole Foods chicken wings. I know everybody thinks they're super expensive, but to be honest with you, when you look at the price difference between like Costco or Walmart or Publix and Whole Foods when it comes to wings, it's not that far off. So the first thing I'm going to do is let that soak. While that's soaking, I'm going to use complete seasoning and put that into a bowl, and then Lawry season and put that into a bowl. I actually do not measure out my seasonings. I feel like seasoning is something that's very go with the flow, you know? So put as much as you like or you don't like. You know what you like. If you don't like the taste of black pepper, don't put a lot of black pepper. For instance, that was lemon pepper. I do like it to have a lemony kick to it, so I put a good amount. My hack is I put it inside of a measuring spoon and then pour it into the bowl. That way I have control over how much I'm putting in. So if I put too much, I can just not pour out all of that seasoning that I had into the measuring bowl. You get me? And then I mix that up. I keep it very simple, okay? After I mix that, I take out my wings out of the water that it was soaking in. Now, this is really important, especially when you're deep frying, is to make sure the wings get very dry. And for me, I feel like the best way to do it is just paper towel. Tell me in the comments if there's another way that you guys know to dry off wings other than with using paper towel. So now I put it in a bowl and I season it. So when I'm seasoning it, I do it in spurts. So I season it a little bit and then, you know, move it around and see if I want any more to it, but I don't dump all of it in at once because I like to have control over what I'm doing. So all of this depends on how much you're making, how little you're making. So that's why I say how much seasoning you use is always going to be subjective, okay? So when I'm moving them around in the bowl, I do use a glove, okay? I don't like to touch the raw meat. I don't know what's wrong with me, okay? And while that is sitting in the bowl, I put a plastic over it. I put it in the fridge to help dry it out. And then I put my heat on, okay? Now I use canola oil to fry the wings, and after I take them out the fridge, I like to just put a little cornstarch on there because I feel like the cornstarch just helps it have that crispier outskirt without making it a fully breaded wing, because if I hate nothing else, I hate a breaded wing. And I did previously in the clip put the temperature, the thermometer in there, and that's just because I like to keep it at 350, but I let it go up a little bit higher because I do want that crispy burnt kind of taste just for these wings. So this is not how I always make wings, but this is how I make these wings. And don't freak out by the color because it does turn that darkish color for two reasons: because of the seasoning and also because there is a little bit of sugar in some of those seasonings, and then what ends up happening is that it caramelizes, okay? So I've just put the thermometer back in just to make sure that my oil got back up to the temperature. Now I'm gonna be making my sauce. So I use honey. Honestly, it doesn't really matter what kind. I feel like as long as it's raw, it has the right taste and consistency. And I just squeeze a good amount in there. Like I said before, all of these things are subjective. So this sauce does have honey, hot sauce, and brown sugar. So I'm not somebody that I like a lot of spice, but I do like a little kick. So I do make sure that I put a good amount of honey and brown sugar instead of putting a whole bunch of hot sauce. So obviously this is something that you would tweak to your liking. The best thing I could say is to put a good amount of each and then whisk it all together. So that way you're able to taste it and then see, do you want it hotter or not? Because I feel like it's always easier to make something a little bit hotter, but it's not easier to make something a little bit sweeter. I don't know if I'm crazy, but that's just my opinion. So I tasted it and I wanted it to be a little bit more sweet, but I didn't want it to be honey sweet. So I just added the brown sugar. So I've never used granulated or white sugar. for this recipe. I just think that brown sugar has a richer taste to it, and I think that brown sugar meshes well with meats and chickens and seafood versus white sugar. I think it tends to give it one, a weird consistency, but also either sit on top or just burn, to be honest with you. So now I take it to a saucepan and I just pour all the sauce into the saucepan and let the sauce simmer on a medium low heat. I don't put it up too high because then it will obviously just burn the sugar and it will burn the honey and the sauce overall. So letting it simmer is probably the best thing you could do. And then when you see the corners get like that, just turn it off. So now after I let my wings just sit for a second and let that oil absorb in the paper towel to the side, I pour the sauce onto it. So because I'm going to put this in the oven, I do like to put a lot of sauce because at the end of the day, the oven is going to dry it out a little bit, like dry up the sauce a little bit. And I want to keep the wet consistency of the wings. So that's how they look. And I just put them onto this mini pan. Obviously, if you're making more, you can use a bigger sheet. I actually don't spray any Pam or olive oil or anything like that on the pan. I just put it directly into the pan. And then I take the additional sauce and pour it on top. So now this next step is optional. I am going to put garlic. Now I do have a garlic problem, okay? The garlic makes stuff hotter. So if this is already too hot for you in the sauce category, do not put the garlic, okay? Put the garlic more so on the pan so that it kind of cooks with that flavor profile, but you don't want to put it on top of the wings because it's just going to make it spicier. I don't know why people don't understand that garlic can be spicy. It's like an unknown thing. So I put the oven on 350. You can also do this in a toaster oven or air fryer as well. I just decided to use the oven. I put it on 350, bake. You can also do broil, but I put it on bake for 350 and 5 minutes. And that's enough. When I take it out, I like that it keeps the crispiness on the outside from deep frying them. Like it doesn't make them wet or like soggy. But I do think that has to do with using the cornstarch. I don't know. Tell me what you guys do in the comments to keep your wings from being wet after you put sauce on them or that soppy feeling. But yeah, so this is the final product. I would love if you guys leave in the comments other recipes that you would like to see me make. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys in the next video.